Good Tuesday evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Valley's most in-depth weather forecast video. It was another cool day today, but we're about to break a pretty impressive string of cooler than average days. In fact, looking at the calendar view, we've had 8 consecutive afternoons with high temperatures below the average. Now, it hasn't been below the average by big margins. Our average high is around, during this time frame, 73, 74, so we've been a few degrees below that average high pretty consistently now for 8 straight days. But for the month as a whole, because it got so warm early on, we are running 1.2 degrees above the average. That factors in both highs and lows. Of course, we just have the highs graphically displayed here. But again, things are about to change starting on our Wednesday. You know, it's getting pretty dry again. The spring season and early in the summer, it was pretty dry. Then it got pretty wet for a time in July and August. But September has been distinctly different, with quite a bit of dry weather for our area. In fact, we're running over 2 inches behind schedule in terms of rainfall. We've only had 0.35 through the first 19 days of the month at the Youngstown Warren Airport. And for the year, we're also running a deficit of over 2 inches at this point. And I'm expecting that number to continue growing with a lack of rainfall in our forecast for the next several days. When we look at some region-wide departures from average over the last 30 days, they've been most pronounced out across the Corn Belt and west of Ohio. Indiana, parts of Illinois, Missouri, Iowa, Minnesota, places like that. Less than half of the amount of rain they typically pick up in the second half of August and the first half of September. Our rainfall deficit's not quite as impressive here locally, but still noticeable. The good news for folks to our west, there will be some beneficial rains over the next several days. So across kind of the Corn Belt areas, from Indiana on west, we will get some beneficial rains over the next week. But once you get kind of east of I-75 in Ohio, not much rain for the next 6 or 7 days. And even beyond that, it doesn't look like a particularly active pattern for us. Not particularly active on this Tuesday evening in most of the country, with one exception. We do have a severe thunderstorm watch in the kind of the Arklatex area, where Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas kind of meet up. But back here at home, things are looking pretty quiet for the next couple of days. High pressure drifts off to the east. The wind comes back around to a little bit more of a southeasterly direction, albeit fairly light, on Wednesday. That will allow temperatures to warm up finally to above average readings, so we should be in the mid-70s on Wednesday. And Thursday and Friday also looking good. We'll zip through this pretty fast because, yeah, not much to show you locally through the end of the week. At the end of the week, your eye is kind of drawn to the edge of the screen with all this mess. It's going to be ugly for a couple of days. Outer banks of North Carolina, down towards Myrtle Beach, up towards Virginia Beach even. Some onshore flow with rain showers around. This will be a coastal low that may or may not take on some tropical characteristics. Either way, it doesn't really matter. If it's a named tropical system or just a regular area of low pressure, the impacts will be the same either way, with some pretty crummy weather down there. But that's too far to the east, it looks like, to bring us any weather hazards. Yesterday we were concerned that this system might throw some clouds our way for the weekend, and maybe even a chance of showers before the weekend is through. There's better model consensus today that while we might see a veil of high clouds trying to come as far west as the Ohio-PA border, particularly Saturday afternoon, should still be dry through the upcoming weekend. All right, with quiet weather in the near term, thought we'd just take a moment and talk about the upcoming winter and what we'll be looking at as we go into the time of the year that we're thinking more and more about the winter forecast. Just as a reminder, in case you're kind of new to my videos and my content, our annual winter forecast is usually issued late October, first week of November. There are winter forecasts that are available, I should say, out there. We hear all about the Farmer's Almanac, of course, at this time of the year, because I think that comes out in August. Just a reminder, of course, the Farmer's Almanac is for entertainment purposes only. There's not much science at all behind their actual long-range forecasts. We can't tell you if it's going to snow on February 15th or anything like that. Our winter forecasts are based on, or the premise is, we talk about things compared to average. Snowfall amounts compared to average, temperatures compared to average, that sort of thing. Anyway, what we'll be looking at for the upcoming winter is a change compared to the last few years. We've been in a La Nina for the past 3 winters, cooler than average stripe of water across the equatorial Pacific. That's La Nina. Well, we have the opposite phase this year with an El Nino coming on. In fact, it's a pretty stout one. That's a stripe of warmer than average waters in the Pacific Ocean near the equator. And it looks like a pretty strong one. Will it be in the class of our strongest on record? Probably not. The top 3, 82, 83, 97, 98, 2015, 2016, those were very strong and very, very strong El Ninos and very warm winters here locally. If it's ends up being a very strong El Nino that really strongly tilts the odds in favor of it being a pretty warm winter across our area. Now, in the strong category, this is kind of closer to where I think we'll end up in terms of the strength of that El Nino. That does introduce the possibility of something other than just a very warm winter. There are a couple of winters on this list that were on the colder side, a couple that were somewhat snowy. When you have a strong El Nino, your chances in our part of the country, your chances of having a super snowy winter are not that high. So while this winter may end up being colder than we've had over the last couple of years, right now the odds do not favor it necessarily being a super snowy one. But it snowed so little last winter and was so mild all winter. I kind of suspect even a winter that ends up being warmer than average and below average in terms of snow, as long as those things are closer to average than last year, it's still going to be perceived as a cold and snowy winter because last year was so lame. We had a whopping 22 inches of snow at the airport. So anyway, we'll be talking more about what we're looking at for the ingredients in our winter forecast. There's more out there than just the El Nino phase and the strength of that, but that's just a little hint of kind of what's to come in future editions of this video, especially when the weather is quiet. We'll be talking more and more about the upcoming winter forecast, which will be released in sometime 5-6 weeks from right now. In the meantime, thank you for watching on this Tuesday evening. I'll see you back here on Wednesday for an updated short-term forecast, and we'll probably take our first stab at the October outlook as well on Wednesday.